What is your Ed 2 brute moment? I was an aircraft mechanic for 5 years in the military. I was working inside a fuel tank, picking up where the last shift left off, and I realized they'd made a significant error. They routed a bunch of plumbing the wrong way and I had to disassemble and redo it. It took me about half of my shift to make the correction, so at the end I wasn't as far along as I would have been if the mistakes hadn't been made. I knew who had made the mistake. A dumbass who thought he knew everything just because he had rank. I didn't sell him out. I just told the maintenance managers that there were unexpected difficulties fitting the parts together, and that's why I wasn't as far along as they expected. The next day I came into work and the managers made passive-aggressive comments to me about my competency as a mechanic. Asking for clarification revealed that the moron who didn't know how to read a schematic tried to cover his own butt by telling everyone that I had broken some fasteners, and that was why we were behind. At this point, I stopped covering for him and cleared up the confusion. Actually, it's because you're an incompetent shitcunt. Chucking eggs at the new kids was a popular way to welcome them to my high school. It was basically allowed during the first week of the year. Most of my friends got egged at some point during the first week, but I didn't and went home and bragged to my mom about it. So she egged me, in my own house. My sister growing up had a nasty habit of asking to eat disgusting things or lick gross stuff for money. We were about 6, so money was a cool 50 cents. My dad, in an effort to break her of it, asked her if he could break a dozen eggs on her head for $5. She hastily agreed, and he proceeded to crack 11 eggs right on top of her head, then walk away and told her it was bath time. I had a friend who was looking to change jobs. It seemed like she always had bad luck when it came to butthole bosses. I told her how much I loved my job and how chill my boss was and how she would probably love working where I worked. I had her apply, gave her a good recommendation for the job, basically got her hired by me. Turns out she was a crap employee, always complaining, always calling in sick. So when it finally came for her to get fired for her poor attendance, she went into HR saying that she called in so much because she felt unsafe at work. Because of me. She took in her phone and showed them some joke I had texted her at some point and said I was creating an unsafe work environment. Basically threw me way under the bus, got me fired, to buy herself an extra month of employment before she quit. I've never felt so betrayed. I love that job. This whole thread is making me so mad. My son and I were home alone while my wife was out with her mom. She had a piece of cake from the night before in the refrigerator that I wasted no time tearing into. In order to seal our fates, I offered my son half. He happily ate it and we went about our merry, chocolatey, fudge frosted way. A few hours later, I'm laying down, watching TV, when I hear my wife walk into the house. Not even 30 seconds later, I hear, "Daddy ate your cake and gave me some to not tell you, freaking betrayal." He knew what was coming. He made you the scapegoat before he could be involved. From a former boss, thank you for holding everything together in the kitchen. After the executive chef quit, we've now hired his replacement and we need only our top people here. From this point forward, your services are no longer required. The butthole told me this in a phone call. He didn't have the balls to speak to me in person. Sounds like if he didn't have the balls to say it in person, you could have showed up to work and said the phone call was a little gargled but you heard that you got the promotion. Probably would have agreed with you and just cried himself to sleep at night. My best friend started hitting on my then girlfriend the moment I moved away for college. 2 months later she dumps me for him. Now he acts like it is weird that I am angry at him, given he was always a pretty shifty guy with crappy morals, but I didn't think he would do it to me anyway. To make a long story short, myself and handful of my closest friends had a game of Risk which lasted over 3 years. Eventually it was my closest ally who ultimately stabbed me in the back. I asked him why he did it, and he looked at me stone-faced and said, "Because you don't deserve it." That's some little finger-esque crap right there. I was playing Monopoly. Me, my brother and my mum left in the game. I was winning, but my mum and brother combined would have held a stronger position than me. All of a sudden, mum decides she's bored and donates all of her assets to my brother. It was absolute sabotage, an event that is still spoken about 2 years later. Monopoly is where relationships go to die. My girlfriend and I broke up. A friend of mine broke up with his girlfriend about a week prior, so me and him were kind of leaning on helping each other get through it. A week after my ex moves out, he calls me and tell me that they're hooked up and we're starting to talk. He then said I accepted we weren't going to be friends over this. We were friends for about 3 years prior to this. We never were, dude. We never were. When my 4th girlfriend came out to me as a lesbian. Not the 4th girlfriend I ever had. The 4th one that had come out as a lesbian while we were dating. Though I suppose that she was also the 4th girlfriend I had ever had. I liked her so much more than the previous 3. Why did I attract so many of them? Next time, you need to strike first. Come out as gay when she says we need to talk. I was at my father's funeral. I asked if grandpa would be coming. Everyone looked at me and an aunt said, "Oh camels, grandpa died last week." No one thought to tell me. Everyone knew and no one bothered to tell me. Nice, right? Oh man, I've had this happen so many times with my family. Oh yeah, your last living grandparent passed away a few months ago. We didn't want to tell you cause we wanted you to focus on school. Thankfully I'm not close with anyone outside my nuclear family, so all the deaths never really affected me. Sucks that this had to happen to you, though. When I got arrested and my best friend wouldn't be a character reference at my trial, when it was largely his fault I was in trouble and I didn't snitch on him. When the guy I dated for 4 years through high school and halfway through freshman year of college started dating his best friend. He had spent so much time convincing me that I was crazy and stupid to think he had something going with her, and I was right in the end. If it's that kind of situation, you're probably better off anyway. My wife and I spent nearly a decade in denial of our feelings for each other. Nothing happened between us until we were actually dating, but there was always something there and we were both always an issue in each other's relationships. Sometimes that chemistry is there and people are just stupid about it, like we were. I was having the absolute crap kicked out of me when I was 15. I was with a friend and the friend just stood there. There was no resentment to the friend. He'd have got hurt if he tried to get involved. One of the guys picked me up and pushed me in the direction of my friend. The friend hit me square in the face and I went down again. Never spoke with him again. What the heck convinced him to do that? I don't know. The betrayal was enormous. I thought he'd have gotten help when it was all over, but instead I had to crawl into some bushes and waited until someone found me. My co-workers liked to tease me when I died. Came back up from lunch one day to see a slice of cake on my desk. After interrogating the usual suspects, I learned it was one of our new hires who'd always been pretty chill. Felt like a knife in my back. My company had a weight loss challenge and one of the other guys in it put a donut on my desk. I knew who did it, though. Walked over to his desk, ate the donut in 3 bites, looked him in the eye, and said, "I'm still going to smoke you in this thing." He lost 3% body weight. I lost 17%. Harmless to the stuff I read here. Among a group of friends I told a joke to one of them. He laughed and moments later he tells the joke to the rest of the group. B. Give credit where credit is due. I wish I were high on Potter News. When my favorite professor accused me of plagiarizing my entire research paper after I busted my butt to write the best thing I could muster. This happened an hour ago. I'm still in shock. 2 friends, one of whom I had given the talk to about their sexuality and how it was okay, the other who had been coming to me for relationship and body image advice, took me aside and told me that a 3rd friend didn't want me around anymore, and they were going to respect her decision. I just looked back and forth between them, thinking about all the conversations we'd had, all the time I'd taken to be there for them, and how they still went through with it when this other B decided it was time to hate me. When my former best friend confessed that all my friends in high school were simply being nice to my face and talking crap behind my back. They only talked to me because they felt sorry for me. That and I was smart, so they used me as a study guide. I never felt so alone after that. Gave my buddy a ride with my wife in the car. He sat in the backseat and had to move my trash can. Yes, I keep a trash can in the car. He looked in the trash can and said, "Ho, somebody's been sneaking a butt ton of candy bars." The look my wife gave me. First job out of college. I was producing video content for the local news. The woman training me was really friendly and I thought it was going to be great because we'd be working closely together. Basically my first time out the gates producing, she had told me she would book our studio techs. I show up, no studio tech does. I was able to scramble and get an acquaintance who could do it to come in, but I looked like such an incompetent butthole. Turns out this wasn't a miscommunication. She'd done a handful of things in an effort to undermine me so that I would get fired, she would look better. But I didn't know this until she eventually succeeded when she changed the label on a package I was sending DHL and it wasn't delivered on time. Surprise, surprise. On my way out, one of the senior people in the company advised me to say thank you and then listed every coworker except for her. That's when I realized it was intentional and the senior woman confirmed it. From about 7th grade until about 8th grade I had this best friend. We were both losers and all we had, but we got along just fine and had similar interests. We both loved to draw and used to draw our celebrity crushes throughout the week and then show the finished products over the weekend on sleepovers. Then, mine started disappearing, so I started hiding them. Only the two of us knew where they were, but they kept disappearing, so I thought maybe I had been leaving them out or my mom was taking them to show people. Until the night my friend came over and my brand new drawing disappeared before I could show it to her. My mom was the one who pointed it out. Every time she came over my drawings disappeared. Never did find out what she's done with them. I'm 36 and damn it if I'm not still angry about that. You need to track her down. Wait until she takes the kids to school and then kidnap her. It won't be pretty, but you need to make her talk. Waterboarding her will do the trick. It's the only way to close this chapter of your childhood. Cold day. Fireplace was on. I sat on the couch and acquired a lap cat. My wife sat down next to me, and the cat moved over. I've never forgiven this betrayal. To this day I short pour her food. Trusted a cat always proves fatal. When I was in high school I confided in my friends about being sexually assaulted when I was young. They proceeded to accuse me of lying about it and told the rest of the school that I'd made it up. In high school I had scoliosis and was picked on pretty badly for it. 4 of my classmates and I were lucky enough to get a scholarship trip to Japan. One of those 4 was my best friend. I was always the quiet one, the superfluous one. People came for him and got me in the bargain, but for some reason with the students from other schools who went to Japan with us it was the opposite way around. So one night we were all sitting together on the floor and he turned to me, loud as usual, and said, "Hey Moska, you've got this lump on your back," and he had this awful smirk on his face. It might seem like a small thing, but my scoliosis almost lost me that scholarship. I'd been bullied for it relentlessly for 3 years, and I'd managed to keep it hidden among these new people quite well until then. It doesn't seem like a small thing at all. That friend was an butthole. I hope he grew out of it. I hope you feel better about yourself too. High school can be miserable. So I have a friend, and this friend is my best friend. All of his other friends got married and eventually fell out of contact with him. I, being married a long time, treat this man like family and would never ditch him. For years he searched for love in the wrong places, that is, strip clubs, and thanked me many times over the years for not ditching him like his other married friends. My kids call him uncle. My wife loves him like a brother, and he has been to every major family event for almost a decade, until he met my wife's friend. They started dating, eventually getting engaged, and now I no longer see my friend, because the backstabbing sob did the one thing he begged me not to do for 10 years. He ditched me. Now I have a hole where my friend should be. I got catfished by a former friend who had created a very elaborate system in an effort to try and make me jealous for attention. Basically how he met a great guy and started dating, etc. was the story. Well, I was actually happy for my friend, but it turns out his boyfriend was fake and he ended up blocking me on everything because he didn't get the response he wanted. I was somewhat friends with a few of his friends who were in on it and didn't feel a need to tell me that I was being fricked with. I was thinking at first, haha, that's a pretty funny joke. Then I saw he blocked you and he wasn't doing it to make anyone laugh. RIP. In high school, Model UN, My friends overthrew my country, recalled the ambassador, me, and hanged and ate me, because Uganda. I had more time to hang out with a girl I met and watch the shenanigans, and then we dated for a year until college. So getting murdered and eaten by cannibalistic Ugandans was great for my love life. That sounds like a much more fun model UN than I ever did, but was class of 80, height of the Cold War, shenanigans regularly started WWII. I remember once the Palestinians cutting a deal with the Soviets and all heck broke loose. My cousin and I have been playing together since childhood. One day, my family gave me a piece of dong with a really fat piece of skin on it. I don't like fatty food, so I refused to eat it. He immediately loudly said, "I love the skin. Stop wasting food to impress the adults." The kisses, lil prick. Jesus, that's a heck of a typo. I was a crappy, mischievous kid. One friend and I always stayed after school pretty late till our parents got off work. We liked to mess with PPLS locker locks to try to guess the combo. We actually got pretty good at cracking them. Little did I know, my friend was making notes of all these combinations and would steal things from lockers after I got picked up. One day out of the blue, I get called into the principal's office. This girl had heard some PPL talking about how things were going missing from their lockers and they didn't understand it, and she got cold feet or something. So she wrote down all the locker combos and brought the paper to her teacher saying that she found it in my locker. I was in the principal's office all goddamn day explaining that I had, in fact, been messing with the locks, but I wasn't doing it alone, and that I wasn't stealing things. What made me the most mad? The fact that this girl said she found the paper in my locker. So how did she get into my locker? That's right, she either cracked it or she is making it up. So logically she would be implicated or be a liar. They didn't question her once. In 4th grade during art class, a bunch of us sitting at a table saying funny profanity-laced crap far away from the teacher and laughing our asses off. When it came to my turn, I said "arcling frick," and immediately a girl at our table stood up, all told the teacher I dropped an F-bomb, and the other kids at my table all took her side. The art teacher gave me 1 day detention, and when she told my primary teacher, Mrs. Marshall, I got the rest of the week off, no recess. Frick you, Tonya, you fricking see. Years ago, my friends and I were down by a pier on a lake. We were all lined up in our swimsuits and we all counted to 3. I jumped, and when I looked behind me, nobody else had jumped. I'm not friends with some of them anymore. Now see, when these situations happen, as you jump, you reach out and grab the hands of the people next to you. You will not go down alone. When my friend told our teacher I was drinking alcohol underage instead of admitting that it was her, I offered to take a blood test to prove it, but they didn't care. Thankfully my parents believed me. This happened a couple years ago now. My friends and I were playing Age of Empires and there were 6 of us playing a multiplayer game. I was on team 1, playing as the Spanish with the ever reliable Franks and Persians as my allies. On team 2, there were the Goths, and for some reason one of my friends refused to play on his own, so he co-oped with another of my friends where they both played as the Huns. Fast forward a few minutes into the game, dissent in the ranks of team 2 occurred. One of the Hun players makes his ally the Goths neutral. Suspicion between the 2 former allies is heightened when the Huns send in their army to attack the Goths. Myself playing the Spanish, seeing the opportunity as the 2 apparent former allies kill each other, race in with my army of noble conquistadors, footmen and several trebuchets. The Goth player, seeing 2 combined armies wreck his defenses, he promptly rage quits. At this point in time, it was currently a 3v1. Technically 2 players playing the same civilization together didn't seem like an effective team. I made a pact with the Huns, forming an alliance so as to keep the game fair and reasonable in my view. Bearing in mind, I still have both the Franks and Persians still as allies, where they had been slowly building up their economies and armies. They didn't react so well to what transpired between myself and the Huns, demanding that I renounce the Huns and rejoin with my allies in loyalty. At this point I was having too much fun, especially since I had had a good start and had the largest economy and army. With a flurry of secret messages to the Huns, I promptly set my former allies as enemies and marched in with my massive army just after the Persians had destroyed the Goths' army. It was literally a massacre. Determined to show the error of my ways, The Persians maintained their ally status whilst I butchered his war elephants, murdered his villagers and sacked his base, crying out to me, "I'll never attack you," as his civilization was quickly becoming a ruin. After turning my gaze towards the Franks, and quickly destroying them as well, the game ended and the accusations began. They said I was a traitor, that had gone back on both my word and honor, and that I should have kept ranks and destroyed the Huns. I didn't quite agree with this. It was a deep betrayal. Fast track to today, I am still known as traitor, and whenever I do something remotely stab in the back related, they bring up my past transgressions. This night is now known as the betrayal, and I will forever be known as a traitor, and maybe quite rightly so. Not too long ago, I had this creepy guy who stick his hand down my pants twice, then proceeded to say I owed him sex because he saw me in a bra. So, immediately I cut off all contact with this guy, like you do, and inform our friends about it. Found out last night my two close friends are still buddy-buddy with him and want to remain on good terms. Ouch. That's just really childish. I saw you in a bra. You owe me sex. Apparently I'm owed sex by the hundreds of thousands of girls I've seen practically naked at beaches and raves and such. My best friend had just moved out of my house and he left some of his old posters up. My other friend comes over and claims that he would have wanted me to have this and proceeds to take an old James Bond poster off of my wall. I have never been so close to wanting to knock someone out ever. He's a piece of trash anyway. Me and two of my friends had a band in high school. Nothing big, played a couple of shows, but mostly played for fun. We would practice a lot in our drummer's parents' basement, but after we graduated high school, they both started acting weird and made excuses sometimes to not have practice that day. I was bummed out and just started working on acoustic stuff myself since I had more time. I found out later that the reason they were being like that is that they were playing with another band with two guys our drummer knew. They were playing more shows and actually got better equipment since one of the other guys was rich. It felt terrible to find that out though, especially since I didn't find out from them. You see, he bought us stuff, so even though he actually sucks, he's buying us new equipment. Man, that's some low as heck actions right there. When I was 3 my late dad farted very loudly in the shoe section of a department store and then darted behind the next aisle. A very concerned elderly woman stared in horror and then went over to talk to my mother about what she was feeding me. It's one of my fondest memories of him to this day. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.